Hey guys, welcome back to the 35th episode of the Huggy Poker Vlog. I'm Huggy, and I've been meaning to play some more 2-5. I've only played twice, the first time being on the live stream at the Lodge, and the second time being the biggest meetup game in Texas history that also took place at the Lodge. I've been meaning to play it more since my numbers have been going pretty much up and up, which is a pretty great thing to experience. But I want to take some more shots at some bigger stakes, and 2-5 is the next logical one to take a shot at. So this session actually takes place in a 2-5 game. I don't want to spoil it, so let's jump into the action. We sit down to start our session, and the very first hand we get pocket kings right off the bat. I raise to $20 under the gun. The +1 player and the big blind player both make the call, and we've got 3 players to the flop. It's not a bad flop when it comes down Queen 4-9 rainbow, so I c-bet for 45 and both players make the call. The turn brings the ace of hearts, which I'm not loving, but with both players interested in the flop, there's no reason to assume either of them has an ace here. When the big blind checks to us, I check with the intention of calling a bet, and the player behind us makes it 105. The big blind folds, and I make the call heads up. The river brings the queen of hearts, which is a pretty bad card since now any ace or queen beats us. The action ends up going check-check though, so I show our kings, and our opponent shows ace-4. He called our flop bet with bottom pair and outdrew us on the turn, unfortunately. Not the best way to start off our session, but at least we didn't lose too much money here. About an hour later, we get the next interesting hand. We've got queen-jack offsuit in the hijack. There's a $15 straddle, and the next player raises to 45. The middle position player then 3-bets to 150. I've been pretty inactive at the table at this point since I haven't gotten much, so I decided to make a cold 4-bet here since it should look pretty strong. I make it $350. I'm a bit torn on my sizing here. I feel like it exudes strength since it makes it seem like I'm not too worried about a call, but it also puts me in a predicament if I do get called. The action ends up folding back to the 3-better who eventually makes the call, so we're heads up to the flop. It comes down king 4 jack with 2 diamonds, so we flop second pair, and in retrospect, when our opponent checks to us, I think I should be putting on the pressure on this flop, especially considering ace king probably would have shipped it pre-flop, and there's probably not too many hands with a king that call us here. At the time though, I decided to check back, which I'm not really happy about. The turn's essentially a brick, bringing the 7 of hearts. Our opponent pushes all in, and I'm trying to think of what it could have that beats us here. Like I said, I'm ruling out ace-king since I think that hand would have shipped it pre-flop. It's possible he's got king-queen that didn't fold since my 4-bet wasn't as big as it should have been. Or maybe he's got pocket jacks that flop to set, but that's pretty unlikely since we're holding a jack, and there's only one combination of jacks that he could be holding. I think it's more likely that he's got a hand like ace-queen or a suited connector or one gapper like queen-10 or jack-10 or maybe 10-9 that perhaps has a flush draw. Ultimately, I feel like our hand is ahead here, and I throw in a chip to call. The river brings the 10 of clubs, and our opponent flips over ace-queen of diamonds, meaning we got the money in good and made the right call, but he caught one of his outs on the river, unfortunately, and we just got stacked. I rebuy for another $1,000, and 20 minutes later we find ourselves in an interesting hand. We've got 9-8 offsuit in the hijack. The under the gun player straddles to 10, it folds to us, and I make it 30. The big blind, who was the incredibly aggressive player sitting to my right in the last episode of the vlog, and has been aggressive at this table as well, 3-bets to 130. It folds back to us, and we've got position, and I know this guy's aggressively raising a wide range, so I make a bit of a loose call. The flop comes down 9-jack-queen with 2 diamonds, so we flop bottom pair with the dumb end of a gut shot, and our opponent c-bets for 135. I was expecting him to c-bet any flop given how aggressive he plays. Since we've hit the board, even though it's just bottom pair, I'm gonna be sticky here, and I make the call. The turn brings the 10 of clubs, giving us the straight. Obviously we're behind any king, so it's a bit daunting. The aggressive guy bets a bit bigger now, making it $220. We just hit our hand though, so I'm not ready to go anywhere yet, and I make the call. The river shouldn't change anything when it brings the 6 of spades. He bets, having us covered, making it effectively a bet of $543, and now I've got to decide if we're good or if he's bluffing. Honestly, it might be a bad move to call here, but this guy is just so stinking aggressive. I think he's going to make this move regardless of his holding, knowing how he plays, and I think there's a good chance he just wants to get us off our hand. After a few moments, I make the call, and he power mucks his hand, meaning just our pair of 9s was probably good. Given that he mucked, we didn't need to show our hand, but I instinctively turned it up, which absolutely tilted our opponent and ultimately made him leave the table. About an hour passes before this next hand. We've got 8-7 suited in the +2 position. There's a $10 straddle, and I raise to 35. The hijack, cutoff, button, and big blind all call, so we've got 5 players to the flop. And I failed to capture the board for this hand, so I'm going from memory as best as I can. I believe the flop came down jack 9-5 with 2 hearts, giving us a double gut shot and a flush draw to go along with it. The big blind checks and I c-bet for $100. The hijack, cutoff, and button all fold, and the big blind check raises to $300. I doubt we're ahead if he's making this move, but we've got a pretty big draw and we're both pretty deep at this point, so I make the call hoping to improve. The turn brings an offsuit 7, so we pick up a pair, though I'm definitely not expecting it to be good. It could mean that we have more outs now though, as potentially rivering trips or even 2-pair might be legitimate outs in addition to our straight and flush outs. He bets again, making it $450. This is no small bet, but we're getting close to 3-to-1 pot odds. Assuming we need a straight or flush to win, we've got 15 outs, and if hitting trips or 2 pairs good, then it's closer to 17 to 20 outs respectively. We're getting the right odds to call with that many outs, and we're pretty close even with just the 15 outs. I imagine if we hit on the river, we could even get a few more chips from our opponent, so after thinking on it, I put in the chips to call. Unfortunately, we completely miss when the river brings the queen of clubs. Our opponent bets again for $1,000 straight. Our options here are fold or try to pull off a bluff for the rest of our chips. I doubt we're getting a fold though, as we've played our hand like an overpair or a draw at best, and I don't think we have much fold equity if we wanted to bluff here. I think it'd just be a punt, so ultimately I just relent and throw our hand away. 2 hands later, we straddle under the gun for $10. It folds to the big blind who makes it $35. I look down at ace-3 offsuit. We've got an ace, so I call to defend in position. The flop comes down with an ace and 2 sixes, so we flop top pair, but we're behind any other ace pretty much. He leads into us for $25, and we're definitely continuing here, so I make the call. The turn brings the king of hearts, and he continues again, this time for $75. I'm thinking to myself, if we call down, we're probably just chopping. There aren't too many sixes in this range, and raising here would look pretty strong. If he does call us down, we can't be too worried since we're chopping with any other ace that beats us besides ace-king. With that, I decide to turn our hand into a bluff, and I raise it up to $225. Our opponent thinks for a bit, but not too long before eventually making the call. The river brings the nine of hearts, which probably doesn't change anything. He checks again, and I decide to make a big bet here, hoping to fold out the chop. I overbet the pot, making it $600, and our opponent goes into the tank. Almost a minute passes before he eventually pushes all in, having us covered. Shit. I thought I had read the situation right, but maybe he actually had ace-king or happens to have ace-9 that hit the river. Part of me wants to call, but I can't imagine a hand we're ahead of here, and after tanking for about 2 minutes straight, I eventually throw our cards into the muck. Our opponent flashes ace-7 for what would have been a chop if I'd called. I'll admit, at first I was thinking our opponent was making a pretty dumb play since he's only getting calls from hands that beat him. But I've revisited this hand a bit since then, and I've realized that he actually saw through the play I was trying to make and definitely leveled me here. I got outplayed, and he won what otherwise would have been a chop if he called or a loss if he folded. So kudos to him, and unfortunately we take a pretty big hit to our stack. The last interesting hand of the session comes almost an hour later when we pick up pocket fours in the hijack. There's a $10 straddle, it folds to us, and I make it $30. The cutoff and straddle both call, so we've got 3 to the flop. And it's a pretty good flop for us when it comes down 4-8 ace rainbow, giving us bottom set. The straddler checks, and this is such a dry board, I don't mind giving a free card to give our opponents a bit of an opportunity to catch up a little bit. So I check back, and it ends up checking through. The turn brings the 3 of diamonds. The straddler checks again, and I was planning to bet this street, but the player behind us makes a motion as though he's interested in the pot. Although I was going to bet here, I decide to check instead and see if the cutoff will bet instead. And he does just that, making it $40. The straddler folds, and I don't want to wait any longer to get the chips in, so I put in the check raise to $125. He 3-bets us, making it $305. We're really only losing to pocket 8s here, which I don't think we could be afraid of. The money's probably going in the middle regardless, so with that I push all in for $849 total. Our opponent only takes a couple seconds to make the call.
Vote. Thank you.
What are you doing? Good aim.
Appreciate it, thanks.
So we end up getting back pretty close to even on the night, but unfortunately I'm just plain card dead for the next 2 hours and can't get a damn thing to connect. Our stack dwindles and we cash out at the end of the night for a $1,300 loss. Wow, so the 2-5 game was pretty frustrating to say the least. We lost with pocket kings right out of the gate. We got the money in good with the queen-jack hand and unfortunately got rivered. I didn't realize at the time that the hand took place. The guy actually was suited and had the flush draw, the royal draw to go along with his gut shot, but either way he hit and stacked us. won the hand and stacked us, which is unfortunate. We couldn't hit our big draws. We had the straight draw and flush draw combo that missed. We were card dead for 2 hours at the end, and then we had the hand where we got outplayed with the ace-3, where the guy, I think, just read the situation correctly, re-bluffed us out of the hand when I was trying to bluff him out of the hand. And in the end, just ended up losing $1,300 in the session. So didn't go the way I was hoping. Gonna steer shy of the 2-5 maybe for a little bit, kind of build my confidence back up a little bit before I give it another go. But I am planning to give it another shot in the future. So hopefully it won't take too long before we see another episode with a 2-5 session. But until next time, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe if you don't mind. Leave a comment. It really helps the channel out. Thanks so much. Take care.